again. A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Thanks for coming on, Laura. Anyway, I suppose I'll start with how are you and how's the last few months been? Because it's been a bit crazy for everyone, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I think the last few months, obviously not being at work, and I think it's been a strange time for everybody. We've not really been able to train sort of as a team up until recent weeks, or train at all, other than maybe probably a month and a half ago now, where we could train in small groups. But I think we did a lot at home on things like Zoom. We did workouts, we got sent runs to complete each week. So I think that really helped us as a group, or me as an individual, to stay focused, keep fit, keep healthy. I think it probably helped a lot mentally for a lot of people as well, having something to still focus on. If you're not at work, you're not doing sport, you're not exercising, everything was shut, everyone was sort of stuck at home. So I think it sort of gave us something to do, something to focus on. So yeah, I think we're all glad that things are starting to come back to normal, and I'm really glad that we can train again, obviously as a full squad, not even just as small groups. So that's been a really positive thing. Obviously, well, I'm a teacher, so I don't go back to work till September. So though things are, I'm still on school holidays. Right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of going back to work, and just a bit more normality, really. But yeah, I think we've had a good group together to keep us going through lockdown. Definitely.
Yeah. What is it that you teach? Sorry, is it physical education or?
Yeah, secondary school. So I teach years 7 to 11, and then we have a sixth form attached. So I teach sixth form as well.
Right. How do they feel that they're getting taught by a good striker like yourself? How do the kids find it?
I think some of them who sort of are into football and stuff, they have a little bit of banter with me. I think more so the sixth form students that I have a lively bunch of football boys who they train, and then they do like a vocational course alongside. I get some stick off them if I don't score or if we lose. But yeah, altogether it's quite good. And obviously I run, starting last year, I run the girls football at school. So knowing a few people, sort of, Beth England went to my college, who plays for Chelsea. He sent a number of things, either like videos, or she sent a load of Chelsea kit, football boots and stuff for presentations. So that's been really good to obviously our students to be able to have things that have come from someone who's on such a big platform. I think it really inspires them in some ways, to be able to obviously have some form of contact with someone who's playing on the biggest stage of women's football. So yeah, I think it's really nice. It's a nice thing to sort of be able to bring to the table for the students.
No, definitely. And I mean, you were talking about the team, and like, you know, during lockdown you were doing workouts and Zoom, and how was that? Was that did they get on all right? Because obviously we've heard stories about people like I think there was even a rumour that Danny Ward, who's just signed for the men's team, he was doing stuff at like Kirkburton Rec or stuff like that.
I think when you're looking around, I mean, I saw all this come out about all the Man United players, you know, being down at their local park and being asked to move. Or I think everyone was basically just looking for either a space where they could work out, or pretty much all of us were doing it for probably the first few months in our garden. So the workouts, we were doing HIIT workouts. So we didn't need a lot of space. Obviously, it was accessible for everybody. Everyone these days has got some kind of smartphone where they can get on Zoom. So there was like, you know, about 30 of us from first and reserve team. It would all get on. One of the coaches would lead it. We went through that. We had a really like quite an intense time at first, where we'd do like 3 HIIT workouts a week. We'd have 2 flexibility sessions and a strength session, and then there'd be a day's rest. So I think we had a good variety of stuff, and I think because we did that for so long, everyone's come back fitter than what they left the season, which is a good thing. It got notched down a little bit just before we started to come back to training, because we'd not really had an off season. So I think it's nice for people to just have the freedom, because things were becoming sort of less strict with lockdown. People were going back to work, people started having things, so then things started to simmer down a little bit. But we still do it now. We train Tuesday, we train Thursday, we've got friendlies Sundays, and then we do a workout on a Wednesday, which is sort of classed as a gym session. So obviously once the season starts, we'll be in the gym on a Wednesday. But yeah, I think it just worked really well. Everyone was just going for like a local park. I went to my local park just up the road, which backs onto like school, so I could do my running there. But yeah, I just think everyone was just, no matter what level you played at, I think we were all in the same boat. So no one could go to a facility, no one could go anywhere. So it was literally find a patch of grass and go do what you can. But yeah, I think it worked well.
No, definitely. And I mean, for some of our listeners who might not know about yourself, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into football?
I started playing football, I think it was about 8 or 9. I've always been quite sporty and outdoorsy, so I've always liked to be outside, playing in the muck, which not every girl is. I mean, I was still obsessed with my dolls, my Barbies, my Brats and all that. But then I liked the other stuff. I liked cars or stuff like that, which I think came more from my dad. So I used to play out with my dad. I used to beg him to go to the park to play football. So we used to go, and I never wanted to come home. So my dad was like, do you want to play for a team? So my dad found me in my local team, which at the time was Bar Green. It was only 5-10 minutes from my mum's house. So yeah, I went down and I absolutely loved it. At the time I did dancing, swimming, and then I just started football.
Right.
So as I got older, football became more frequent. I started playing at Sheffield United Academy in their like development setup. And it got to the point where I had to choose. So swimming went first, and then a little bit later on, I had to quit dancing as well, because I would get to the age with both where you had to commit more time to each. A lot of them were on the same days. So in the end, football was the last one standing. So I've just gone through all my sort of secondary school life, adulthood. I've always played, I've always represented like my school, my college, my university. So yeah, I'm still going. I still really enjoy it. It's something I'm really passionate about. Obviously, we've got a new setup at town this season, new management, and you know things are working differently. So I think for me personally, I want to play at Huddersfield Town and for us to play as high as we possibly can, which I think is everybody's aim. Sort of when you surpass development, you're looking to play at the best level you possibly can. And I love playing at town. So hopefully if we can do that as a squad and push forward, then that's the goal, I think. But I think football's always been for me the one thing that I've never really got bored of or want to give up. So hopefully that stays.
Well, yeah, it's open for the town team as well. So obviously you talked about how you were really active. I'm feeling a little bit lazy now compared to all the stuff you were doing when you were a kid. Who were you kind of like football heroes growing up, or like, you know, I suppose you have current heroes in the game as well?
Well, From Barnsley, I support Barnsley, but I also loved Manchester United.
Right.
So I'm a United fan. So on my 10th birthday, I got my first Man United kit. And on the back, I had number 10 and then my name, and number 10 was Rooney.
Yeah.
I wore my Man United kit to the Barnsley game because it was on my birthday, which was a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of stick off a lot of men. I mean, I was only 10.
Yeah.
So, but I think sort of growing up, I loved Ronaldo, his twinkle toes. He was so good on the ball. He was so fast. But I also liked players. Well, I liked watching strikers like Henry, obviously Rooney, Van Persie. Just strikers that just had there was just a bit of a different class. Even Drogba. I mean, I hated Chelsea when I was younger because they used to challenge Man United all the time. But I could appreciate sort of his style of play, his gameplay. And as a child, I used to wait up all day to watch Match of the Day. And it was literally like trying to peg my eyes open just to stay awake. But I just loved watching it. And then I'd get up on a Sunday morning and I'd watch it all over again. Much to probably my mum and my sister's annoyance that I was always at the TV, football on. But yeah, I loved it, and I liked watching so many different teams. Growing up, Man United was my team, but I enjoyed watching Arsenal because they had such a different style of play. I think I was just generally interested in football as a whole, as opposed to specific players, but there was attributes from different players that I wanted to create into my own game.
Yeah.
But I think growing up, I was always a centre midfielder, and then I think sort of as you get a little bit older, coaches kind of guide you into where they think you can play best.
Yeah.
So I always appreciated, and maybe more so now, I appreciate midfielders like De Bruyne and just the way you can pass a ball, get the ball round. But yeah, I think as well these days it's bigger to look at the European stage as opposed to just the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I think that gives a lot of different styles of play, different formations, different sort of ways of attacking and defending, tactics of the game. So I think it's just interesting now that we've got access to more football than just English football. So I think that's a pleasure to watch as well, to sort of learn from and put ideas into the game. Yeah.
Is there any kind of, because you mentioned quite a few strikers there, is there any, as a striker, is there any people that you think, oh, I'm quite similar to them, or, you know, I think they're really good at this and this is kind of what I'm going to include in my style? Do you do much studying, or is it kind of instinctive?
I've been compared to players, so Drogba, Rooney, one of my friends says Morata just from one of the ways, but I think I understand where it comes from. So generally it's your centre-backs, they bully your strikers, whereas I'm quite tough on the pitch, so I'll sort of give as good as I get. So sometimes I say, like, Rooney, he used to be a little bit of a hothead and he'd put a tackle in or a challenge. Drogba, he was strong and feisty. And I think sort of if you look at like Giroud, for example, for Chelsea this season, he's been one who will tussle and battle with defenders. And I think that's sort of my gameplay as well. I can do other stuff, but I'm more in there, like, I'll give a good hustle and bustle as to what I sort of get back. So I think that might be sort of the kind of players that I would compare myself to in the style of play. I think in the women's game, the strikers are quite different. I think a lot of female strikers are a lot more agile. Obviously, you've got this season like Beth England at Chelsea, you've got the Arsenal strikers, Man City, they all have sort of a different game. So I think watching them play at such a high standard, you try and pick things off each of them. To say, you know, maybe like one thing in my game I'd like to be better at is attacking headers. So like if I watch them play and I watch them score, you know, with headers, like when England play and stuff like that, that's something that I can try and look at and adapt into my own game.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, for those who don't know, I mean, we talked before we started this, but wanted to know a bit more about your footballing journey. So obviously, you mentioned a couple of teams you played for before you got to Huddersfield, but yeah, just tell us a little bit about your career so far and how you ended up at Huddersfield.
I'd had the first time I'd moved sort of over to this side in terms of teams, because I'd always been Sheffield based, was when I went to uni. So I went to Leeds Met, which is obviously now known as Leeds Beckett, and I joined Leeds City Vixens just because I wanted to play for a team over here. After that, the team sort of disbanded. There was quite a different wide age range, so I think the team disbanded. And we sort of joined together with Guiseley.
Mm-hmm.
So they were then called Guiseley Vixens. So we'd merged because it was going to disband.
Right.
So for, I think it was a season, and I played in the Reserves League, and then the opportunity just arose to go to Bradford. So I went to Bradford and I played for, I think it was a season in the reserve setup, which just obviously helped with development. It might have been, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 seasons, but I think that helped a lot to be around sort of players of a higher status. So they played in a higher league. The players that Bradford had in their first team were really talented as a team and as individuals, and it was something to sort of strive towards. So it gave me a little bit of ambition, a little bit of fire and belly, because I thought, well, I want to be part of that setup. I want to be pushing to get on the bench or play for the first team, and eventually that did happen, and I enjoyed all the time that I spent at Bradford. It was a really good bunch of girls to play with. I felt that I'd developed and that I'd been given an opportunity to play in the league, that obviously I still play now, and just sort of understand the league and its physicality, the demands, the fitness, because even though you sort of train together as a reserves and you do stuff, the game day is very different. It's just not quite as intense, I'd say, or intense for prolonged periods of time. So I'm thankful that I got that opportunity. Things sort of, I think, behind the scenes at Bradford, the manager had left. They'd not brought another manager in. I think there was a bit of a lack of communication with players. So a lot of us looked at other clubs. That's when I looked at Huddersfield Town. And I made the move over there, and I've enjoyed it ever since. We've had 2 seasons. We played under Ashley Vickers, and then this season, Jordan Wimpenny has taken over as manager. We've got a new setup with coaches and sort of backroom staff, analysis. We've got physios and nutritionists and things like that. So I think all round, Jordan's so far made the club sort of as professional as it can be without being promoted to the league above, which is a good start, and it's something that's really nice to be a part of. I think together as a team and as a squad and as a club, we've got goals and targets of where we want to go, what we want to achieve. So at the moment, I'm really happy at Town. Hopefully when the season starts on the 20th of September, we hit the ground running. And we start the season with a win and 3 points.
Yeah, no, here's hoping. And I was actually going to ask about the, because you mentioned about the new coach and the kind of changes behind the scenes. How have you, I know it's only pre-season, but how has it felt so far? Does it feel like an exciting thing to be a part of?
Yeah, I think generally when we get to training, it's much more regimented, and I don't mean that in sort of a bad way. I mean it in a really good way. That players are expected. I mean, training starts at 7, so before it was we would all be turning up at 7 o'clock. Then we need to boot up. Then we need to warm up, and it could at times be quite lethargic and not very. Like we'd finish one thing and the change over to the next part would be quite different, and it'd take quite a while. And sometimes we didn't necessarily feel that we were working on things that went wrong at the weekend. So if something specifically hadn't worked on Sunday, we didn't feel that we'd necessarily work on it that week before the next game.
Yeah.
So sometimes it felt as though training was drills rather than focusing on sort of what we needed to work on as a team or as individuals. So with the regimented, I mean, now like we arrive for training with 15 to 7:45, 6:45. At 7, training starts. If you need to see the physio, if you need to do your own warm-up or you need to do something else, then you're expected to arrive early. We all warm up. We go from drill to drill to drill. Every session we have some form of fitness, whether it's running, whether it's power, strength training. We do something along those lines. And it's just, there's a reason why we do everything. It's explained to us. We know why we're doing each practice. And I think that helps you to get into a zone where you are putting in your maximum amount of effort. We all have to wear a vest at training with a pod. So he can track how many kilometres we've run, so the distance we've covered, the power plays, his top speed that we've hit in the session. And he set the marker that he expects that we run between 7 and 8 kilometres per training session, which we've all been achieving, because the drills are there for us to achieve it. But if you want to sort of hide away or, you know, not really push yourself, then maybe you won't hit around that. So yeah, I think it's really good. It gives you something to work towards. Like when I go to training, I know that I'm there and I'm there to work hard. And everybody else knows that. If you don't want to go and you don't want to work hard, then you will be spoken to. Which I think is a good way. I think it gets the team to raise the bar. The standard is high and that's where it's been set. And if you want to come below that, then you obviously need to work harder, or, you know, like coaching staff will talk to you. You can talk to physio, whatever it is, to make sure that we're all playing to the best of our ability, which I think so far it's worked. So all being well, we continue that as individuals and as a squad.
Yeah. And how do you feel pre-season's going? I know it's 2 games so far, but I've noticed you got a couple of goals already. It sounds like you're feeling good. You know, you got any kind of targets this season as well, like tallies to break or?
I think for the last 2 seasons sort of at Town, I've not really had the opportunity to find my best form. I've had a few interruptions with injuries, and then it was like squad rotations. I never felt that I had more than maybe 2 or 3 games where I'd start more than 2 and 3 games on the bounce, then I'd be on the bench again, and then it rotated. So I think this season my aim is 1, to stay fit, avoid injury, which I think through all the strength and conditioning, the physios and everything else that's been put in place for us is something that's achievable. You know, we all pick up niggles, but the main thing is that we all stay fit. I'd like to, obviously as a striker, score as many goals as I possibly can, assist as many goals as I can, because that essentially is my role within the team. So I think on a personal note, the main thing for me is what we achieve as a team. But on a personal note, any striker would like to either score the most for their club or the most in the league. So it's just something to work towards. But I think moving forward pre-season, we've hit the ground running so far. Everybody's up for it. Everybody gets involved. If you start on the bench or if you start on the pitch, everybody's got the right attitude, which I think is really important. That, you know, we realise that as a squad, you can't win the league with 11 players. So everybody's got a crucial role to play. It might be that, you know, like for example, there's me and Georgia who are battling for the striker's position. If in the formation we only play with one of us will be on the bench. We've both got a different style of play. We've both got different attributes. So that's down to obviously management to look at our opponent. And it might be that one week I suit that better, might be the next week that George suits it better. But it's just about us all accepting that we've all got a part to play, whether that's starting or on the bench. And I think that has been drilled into us, and that people's attitudes are really good so far. So long as we can keep pre-season the way it's going, hopefully that is achievable. Keep getting on the score sheet for us to keep, you know, winning games. Then when the season starts, it should be good.
Yeah, and what do you think about this season? Do you think you have a good chance of doing well and getting promoted? Is that the kind of feeling in the camp? Or?
I think so. I think because we've had such a big change and a big shift on sort of management, we've created sort of a DNA for the club this season. We are, what kind of team we are, what style of play we're going to play, the formation that we're going to play, and we work on it every single day when we're in training. So we know that is how we are expected to play. We all know what our role is. We all know where we should be and what we should be doing and what's expected. So when we're looking at our squad, we've got so many talented players within our squad that there's no reason why we can't compete against any other squad in our league to win every game. There's some really good players in our league, really good teams. But when we look at our team, we are one of those as well. So if we can find our form as a team, carry it forward, build some momentum and do what's being asked of us, there's no reason at all why we can't all just push forward and hopefully the aim always is, isn't it, to win the league, but hopefully this season we come either top or second. That's the big aim.
Yeah, well, good luck to you is what I say. And I was going to ask because, before this, I mean, it seems like ages ago, but you guys played at the John Smith Stadium against Ipswich. I know it wasn't the best in terms of results, but how did that feel like in front of a record crowd? Is that kind of what, are you hoping for kind of more opportunities like that to play at the bigger stadiums?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the experience as a whole for us was great. Obviously, we all really enjoyed it. Getting to play on, like a lovely ground, on a lovely pitch. It was a really good experience, and it was great to see so many people turn out to support us, whether they be supporters of the men's team, the women's team. It was nice to see that sort of Huddersfield Town as a club got behind us, and the men's team sort of got behind us, and just the entire club. So I think moving forward, it would be great for us to keep that relationship going with sort of the men's side as one club going forward. But yeah, I think it was really good. Obviously, the result wasn't what we wanted. And, there's so many different reasons for what went on. But I think if we were given the opportunity again to obviously play at the stadium and things like that, I think we'd definitely be back with a vengeance, because we wouldn't want to walk away on the losing side again, because it was a tough one to take, that one.
No, definitely. And you talked about kind of pushing forward as the men's and women's team. We saw obviously with the kit that you were involved in the kit launch with with Lewis O'Brien. First of all, how was that? And do you feel like the men and women's team are becoming better connected?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was really nice of the club to invite the women's team to obviously join in the shoot, and it was nice to be involved in the videos and sort of just part of what the club is as a whole. For me, it was a good experience. It was nice to get involved. Like, we went down on the day, we all had our photos out, we went round the ground and had the different photos taken. It was just a really good day. It was nice to see that the men's team, the men's club appreciated that we'd gone down to help with the kit, and they were really hospitable. It was really nice, and hopefully moving forward it's something that we can continue to be a part of. I don't know if in previous years maybe we've photographed separately or what's gone on, but I think it was quite nice that they'd invited us to go, as opposed to maybe looking for alternative models or whichever route they'd normally take. So yeah, it was a really good experience, and I think moving forward it seems that we are moving forward as sort of one club together as opposed to two separate teams, which is really good.
And what do you think of the kits? Because I suppose it's kind of been mixed opinion from the fans. Do players care about what the kits look like? I don't know.
I think we all have an opinion on it, but I think the general consensus for us is we like the kit. The home kit is always going to be blue and white. I don't think there's any surprises there. I think we had a few comments that the away kit looked a bit like the England away kit.
Yeah.
Obviously that was but yeah, for us, sometimes we have the away kit, sometimes we have the third kit. It depends how the colours match up against the home kits of those in our league. So I think last season, a bit like the men's, we wore the coral away kit. And the men wore that more than their actual away kit, the third kit. So I'm not sure which one we'll get this season, or if we'll have both. But I think the kits are nice. They seemed really nice on the day. So yeah. Looking forward to new kit.
Well, I'm sure you'll pull off the bright yellow better than I would if I wore it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about women's football in general. Is it frustrating as a women's footballer to have the game compared to the men's so frequently?
I don't think it's frustrating that there's a comparison, because football is one game. If netball was played by both men and women, there would be a comparison. Sort of when you look at basketball, the NBA, the men's and women's are compared. I think that when you play a sport and there's a men's side and a women's side, there's always going to be some kind of comparison. I just think the only part that is maybe frustrating for women is some of the derogatory comments or homophobic comments that are made towards female footballers, or that sort of insinuate that women shouldn't play football. I think that's the only thing that is frustrating. Like, we're in the 21st century now, you know. Women and men can each do whatever they want, whether it's, you know, typically that football is a men's sport, but women play it, or typically where you'd look and say, well, dancing's for girls, but it's not, because boys can dance as well and be just as good at it. So I think just some of the stereotypes that come with it can be a little bit frustrating at times. I mean, there was something on Twitter and I saw it on Facebook as well, where I think it was a girl from our league had posted something online about the upcoming season, and she'd just got such a long list of men commenting on it with just not very nice things. And I just don't think there's any need. You know, a lot of it, a lot of men generally talk about money, and no one's expecting to be paid an equivalent of a men's game, because the men's game generates so much money and income for a club that's why they can afford, you know, their wages are a ridiculous amount of money, and, you know, the sponsorship and everything else. So I think for women it is a different game. It's female football, and the expectations and the money and sort of the day-to-day life, even of somebody who plays football at the highest level, is completely different to somebody who plays football in the men's Premier League, because of the monetary value of what can be offered to the club. But I think other than that, I don't mind, you know, the women's game being compared to the men's, because, I mean, I'd do it myself. I'd talk about what Chelsea women have achieved and what Chelsea men have achieved, or, you know, you look at like what the England women have achieved and then the England men have achieved, and I think it's a natural thing that you would compare, just the same as you might compare Man United and Arsenal as a team, might compare the men's and women's. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, so long as it's not sort of in a derogatory manner.
Yeah. No, and I mean, that's awful to hear, but have you, or as the, you know, for teams you've been playing, have you experienced any kind of personal abuse, or, you know, has your teammates experienced any kind of abuse when playing?
I think there's been a few occasions where comments have been made or names have been called at people. I think as adults you kind of just turn a blind eye to it sometimes, but then it's a bit of it's to have to turn a blind eye to something when you're simply just playing sport is not really right, I don't think, in a way. I don't think I've not personally had, other than comments on social media. So, like, for example, the other day, someone commented on the social media about the kit, saying that, well, it looks rubbish, probably swap, whether it's on a man or a woman. And, you know, just comments like that. It's not really necessary to voice that opinion on. It's just ridiculous. But other than that, I don't think I've ever been personally sort of victimised, other than it generally is social media.
Right.
You know, where people can hide behind a screen and a keyboard and make comments that, you know, they're not necessarily going to be challenged about. But besides that, not personally, no.
No. Well, that's interesting, because I spoke to Proud Terrors, which was obviously the LGBT plus group for Huddersfield Town. And I was wondering if you know, because obviously in the women's game, a lot more people are, have come out, and it's kind of, it's a lot more accepted. But in the men's game, there is no openly gay footballers. I was just wondering, why do you think that is? I've heard before, obviously, women's football gets talked about how it's more community-based. Is there a particular reason, do you think, why people are more open in the women's game than the men's, in terms of that?
I don't know if maybe in the women's game, predominantly, there might be more people that are homosexual than in the men's game. So maybe it's more widely accepted, because in most teams, there might be a number of people who are gay, lesbian, or whatever. So maybe people feel more comfortable in the women's game that, somebody else is like that in the team, so they can communicate it. But sometimes I think it just comes back to just the same old, that men don't always like to talk about feelings, or that maybe it wouldn't be accepted. I know there's a lot of, banter flies around a changing room and stuff like that. Maybe that is partly to do with it. Maybe the fact that in the Premier League, I know there's been stories that have come out that there's 2 gay footballers in the men's Premier League, but they don't dare to bring out their name. And I just think that if that's how somebody is, that they shouldn't have to hide it through fear of prejudice or through not being accepted by others. So I think maybe that is something that could be sort of integrated into development. So when boys sort of join academies and stuff, and they're at like 11, 12, 13, that maybe at school like kids have to do sex education or PS to learn about safe sex, sexuality, and different things like that, that possibly football clubs can offer young boys or young males some sort of insight into, sexuality and acceptance of others, to maybe help promote people being able to be honest and not having to sort of hide away who they are or who they love as such.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, because, as you mentioned, it's kind of, it's 2020, this shouldn't be an issue. But I think the education's a really good point, actually. I wanted to talk about so obviously there was kind of a bit of a momentum last summer, because you had obviously the Women's World Cup. It seemed like more people were tuning in than ever, and there was kind of more attention in the game, or it certainly felt like that in some aspects, and we saw a bit of a rise in attendances. Given the pandemic and the season was null and voided, do you think it kind of took the momentum away in some aspects, or do you think it's kind of the same as before?
I think the momentum will come back. I think people will have missed going out and actually being able to watch football live and go to a stadium. So I think momentum will pick up. I think in terms of the women's game, I don't think it'll impact on sort of the Super League or the Championship. I think maybe at our level, maybe that's passed because the Women's World Cup has passed. But I think particularly at our level, when we are given opportunities to play at our club stadium, such as the John Smiths, I think that gives more people a little bit of food for thought. So they think, well, they're playing down there. We might go down and watch. So I think opportunities to play in front of or at better venues encourages people to come and watch, because it's somewhere that they're familiar with. It's maybe down the road, or sometimes they'll do offers that if you're a season ticket holder, you could come for free or for a reduced price. I think things like that do help promote and push the women's game. And the fact that, sometimes we feature in the programme, or, they'll talk about us at half time. Just things like that can help us get a higher attendance sort of for our games. So hopefully that continues this season. But
yeah, so you think it's more about the visibility, kind of keeping that going, and just saying, yeah. Well, I can testify, because obviously I'm a season ticket holder for the men's team, and there's an old chap in front of me, and he has testified that women's team are playing far much better than the men's. So if that's encouragement for everyone, I don't know what is. So I just want to talk a little bit about the fundraiser, because you all have to currently pay to play, and obviously the donations going towards your sister's page. So can you tell us a little bit about the pay to play and about your sister and the page you set up?
Yeah, I think sort of at our level we have to pay to play. So on average it's about £300 per season to pay to play over 10 months. So it'd be about £30 a month if you were to pay it yourself. Ultimately they encourage us to find a sponsor, which we do ourselves, or we've been lucky this season that our club has tried to help us find a sponsor. So they would pay the £300 for the season. Some sponsors, so I'm sponsored by a letting company, they deal with lots of different housing things. Ryle, they've also paid towards my boots for the season. I know some other sponsors will contribute for travel or things like that. So I think we're really lucky that we have sort of members of the community who come forward to help us, so we don't actually have to pay. But I think that's why they've set up this fundraiser, because there will be people within the first team or the reserve squad who might not be able to get a sponsor. So this money could help to contribute towards their expenses for the season, so that they might not have to pay as much. The money would also contribute towards training facilities, kit, and things like that. Items for physio. Obviously my sister, not this May, so it was May last year, was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then in August it had spread to a sternum and a spine, and it's known as metastatic breast cancer, which at the moment there isn't a cure for. So the club kindly suggested that when they did some fundraising, that a certain percentage of the money went to Emma's charity, and the rest towards the club. So the EE page, which is the name of the fundraiser that we set up for Emma, it's got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and stuff like that, and we do lots of different events. We've got a black tie event coming up in November on the 14th in the Barnsley area. So yeah, it's just a case of the club's been really supportive of the fact that I'm doing a lot of fundraising for Emma to enable her to experience things, and that they've sort of joined on board. And we also had a donation from the Huddersfield Town Supporters Club at the last season, who kindly donated some money towards it as well, which was really nice, and obviously we appreciated it a lot.
Yeah, and obviously without delving in too much, how are you feeling? How's Emma doing? Is everything going okay?
Yeah, I think she's feeling good. She completed her active treatment, so she rung the bell. God, when would it have been? A good few months ago now, and now she is continuing with it's like a form of chemotherapy treatment, but it isn't one that makes her lose her hair. So her hair's growing back. She's back to work. She's managed to get a promotion at work. So things are going well and things are looking up. It's just a case of getting back to normality. I think obviously the pandemic's affected everybody in different ways, but besides that, I think getting back to normality will be really good.
No, definitely, and we'll drop in the link, for anyone who wants to donate, for sure. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for your time, Laura. Just before I go, is there anything you kind of want to say, or anything we can add?
No, just to say that we are thankful for all the support of people either coming to watch or supporting us as a club to buy things, or for training facilities, to sponsors, obviously, who sponsor us to enable us to play for free, essentially, or to not have to pay ourselves. So I just think it's, we'd love for everyone to get behind us this season, come down and support us, and hopefully more opportunities to play sort of at the John Smiths or larger stadiums in cup or league games will come, and hopefully that'll be an opportunity for more people to come down and see us.
Yeah, no, sounds great. I mean, well, it sounds like it's going well in pre-season, so good luck for the rest of the season, and I look forward to seeing you with a picture of the trophy at the end.
Hopefully. Thanks a lot for speaking.
Cool. No worries. Thanks, Laura. Cheers.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.